Hello everyone, Ray number here. I'm a bit late, but I am doing my fall 2024 roundup video. I wrote this a while ago originally, but I just didn't have the time and energy to do videos for a while, but now I'm trying to get back into it. And starting back with this, and then over time when I have the chance again, I will be catching up on doing videos for the first impressions that I've already written for the current season as of right now, which is winter 2025. So if you want to see those now, you can check out my website. But for now, I was talking about fall 2024 and what I plan to watch in winter of 2025. So the last leaves are falling in this anime season. Overall, this was a really great season. I'm a huge fan of pretty much everything I watched. This season had a lot of split core shows, or ones that will continue into the next season, many of which I did watch. I also have a lot of shows that I'm looking forward to for next season. There won't be any serious spoilers for any of the shows that I mentioned, that I will be mentioning here. So, starting off, we have Uzumaki. Wow, that first episode was really awesome. But by now, I'm sure everyone is aware of how much it completely flopped after that. You all know the issues by now. If you're in any way involved in the anime online space, and I doubt you'd be watching this if you weren't, so I'm not going to go into detail, just repeating all the same obvious things that held back this anime that are all pretty obvious. For the sake of keeping things brief, as I have other shows I would rather talk about, episodes 2 and 4, 2, 3, sorry, 2, 3, and 4 are very poor when it comes to the art and the animation. That is blatantly obvious. It is objectively bad. But I do still think overall the show does succeed at being creepy at times. The theming around the spirals carries the poorer moments of the show to allow it to still be fairly enjoyable, because just the excellent source material and the theming is just that strong. Slowly piecing together how much of our world is made up of spirals and seeing how those can become sources of horror just works really, really well. The awful art, visual quality, and the consistency can absolutely break your immersion, though. That will happen multiple times if you watch all of it. But at its best moments, it did still feel engrossing and freaky. So I'm probably a bit less down on it than most people, but it is absolutely the clear worst thing I watched this season. And I wouldn't exactly say I recommend it. My recommendation would be to watch the first episode if you haven't watched, or I guess if you have or haven't watched read the original source material. Watch the first episode because it's awesome. If you haven't seen the source material, if you really like the first episode, just go and read the original. Voice acting and sound design is great and all. I'm always one to promote those things, but to me, those are not doing enough here to justify watching this when you could just get a better experience with the original source material. So, then moving on to Dan to Dan. This show, overall, I do think lived up to the hype. The art direction is fantastic, it's consistently hilarious. Ken and Momo are a great duo whose blossoming feelings really are a joy to watch, and just their awkwardness and their dynamic is just fantastic. The rest of the cast is also really great, so I very highly recommend it. With the caveat that the more sexual aspects of it, especially at the beginning, well, that kind of goes through the whole thing, can understandably bother some people. It did not really bother me, and would not really call it a problematic series, again, just in my opinion. The series does have genuine themes around puberty and sexual attraction and stuff like that you can actually see how this plays into. But I still recognize that it is visually explicit, so there is some legit titillation to it as well. I think this is really up to your own tastes and your standards and what bothers you, which is I think everyone should be respectful of people's different boundaries and stuff like that. So, for the people who say it's too much for them, please don't be a jerk about that. It's okay. You can just enjoy it the same way you can, and if other people don't, then that's it. So yeah, I also want to encourage people to respect that because you also probably have some things that you don't want to push through to continue watching a series for its other qualities. Like some people, it's some of the stuff in Dan to Dan. It didn't done nothing there made me feel like I need to stop. But with something like Goblin Slayer, for example, With episode 1, that did make me want to stop. I was not willing to push through that. We all have our own different feelings and boundaries. Please respect them. If you're interested in Dan, watch the first episode and see how you feel about the aliens. That's as direct as I'll be. If that doesn't bother you too much, then I would say you're fine to continue. It doesn't really get much worse from there, at least in terms of what the anime has covered as of this season. And if you do push through it, you will get a really amazing experience for it. So I would not personally call it my favorite show this season, but I think I would consider it the best of the new shows. And so then, going from there to 365 days to the wedding, this is the sleeper gem of the season. I absolutely adore this show. And this one is my favorite. It is a perfect, sweet, awkward romance that has the maturity that it should have for a series focused on adults, while also still being really funny. In my first impressions review, I got into the fundamentals of what made the show appeal so much to me, and as we got in further, I just fell more in love with it. I love these adorable, awkward dorks. Alongside their fantastic dynamic, the stuff with the side characters that we got was also pretty great. And there's a really strong emotional gut punch with one particular character that I did not expect coming with this overall very wholesome show. And that was done really well. I really like when a show can have a lighter, wholesome tone, but also take itself seriously when it wants to and execute that really well. And to me, 365 Days to the Wedding absolutely does that. And it really gets into how the series does a great job at getting into topics and themes around navigating life as an adult, with marriage in particular being an important aspect of adulthood that everyone views and experiences differently. I definitely want to write about this series again in focus. Perhaps I think I'll catch up with the source material, and maybe then I'll write something. And yeah, I will definitely be reading the manga. So for me, and my just subjective tastes, this gets my highest compliments of the season. And is very highly recommended if you enjoy romance, slice of life, comedies, anything in that vein. It is my favorite of the season. So then moving on from there, I just realized I did not move my slideshow. Here's 365 Days to the Wedding. Now you've looked at that, you should watch it. Very highly recommended. Moving on to Beastar's final season, the first part. The only reason I didn't mention Beastars in my summer roundup is because I actually forgot it was coming out so soon. I love Beastars, and I love the studio who made it, and this season does not disappoint. I prefer watching series spread out as opposed to binging, so like the weekly format of the seasonals works really well for me, and that's what I'm used to because I've been consistently following the seasonals for years now. But sometimes a show is so good that even I can't resist watching a ton of it at once when I can. And this part of Beastars is one of those shows. I binged it in I think like 2 nights. The characters in the world of Beastars is just incredibly compelling and engrossing, and this season gives a lot of that. Orange's animation is top class, and I will not stand for the backhanded compliments of their work looking good for 3D animation. Beastars looks good, period, and uses 3D to its absolute best. The character animation is maybe the best I've seen, accentuating the characters and the scenes perfectly in a way that 2D can often struggle to do. Really playing to its strengths of 3D while also just being objectively a great looking show. And between Dan and Beastars, the top spot for the opening was really difficult because they're both really, really fantastic. But I do give it to Beastars. Both of them have awesome visuals and a super catchy song, but Into the World just gives me this really happy feeling that just can't be beat. These two also compete strongly for the best voice acting this season, but I give that to Beastars as well. Legacy especially, his Japanese voice actor is just fantastic. Genuinely one of my favorite voice acting performances that I can really think of. And moving on there, about Dragon Ball Daima, I also did a first impressions review of Daima if you want to see that, which I'll refer you to if you want to hear more of my in-depth opinions based on that. And so far, my opinion on it being fantastic and exactly what I wanted from the series had not changed since I wrote this. I still, again, At the time of writing this, more episodes have come out since then, but I still think Dynamo's fantastic overall. It has issues, but great. I still think it's very fun and refreshing, and it didn't the characters being turned into kids didn't really bother me, especially earlier on. They did enough with it that, in my opinion, it doesn't just feel like a marketing gimmick, and it has the most consistently great art and animation that we've seen in the series to date, especially just looking in modern. You could argue Super Broly, like Dragon Ball Super Broly, looks better, but they used a lot of 3D that wasn't especially great, which breaks the consistency. And while I do think Dragon Ball Superhero looked pretty good, it did not look this good. The show looks incredible, and while I'm not like as high on just high quality fight animation as other people are, if you can't already tell from my other content, I'm very much a slice of life person. This I am able to get a lot of enjoyment from Dragon Ball Daima just because I love this world and the series, and seeing them kick ass with really great art and animation, it just makes me happy. So yeah, I'm also thoroughly enjoying the lore and the world building that is showed as of then. And yeah, if you really enjoy lighthearted Dragon Ball like me, then I do highly recommend it. And on to our next one, we have the first part of Re:Zero Season 3. As I stated with my last seasonal roundup, I'm a big fan of Re:Zero, but this series is very hard to talk about without going into the story and the character details that would spoil things. So I'll do my best. It's my first time kind of basically going more in depth on Re:Zero, so I can start with some of the general things. I think as the best main character among isekai, period. Subaru is just a really great character. If you want an isekai protagonist who isn't a piece of cardboard, and you genuinely mean it when you say you want them to have emotions and struggles, then this series is for you. It's really frustrating seeing people say they hate overpowered, flawless, like emotionally empty protagonists. Then why when Subaru struggles, he makes bad decisions, he expresses emotion and cries and stuff like that. But I'm not here to rant about isekai. I could talk about isekai in its own thing, which I will probably do eventually. This first half was good, but it was a lot of setup and plot heavy things. So again, there's really not much I could talk about. I can say that I do love the focus on the guy who sounds a lot like a famous cat. He is my favorite character in the series right now. I also loved that speech that a certain character did. That was really good. It was good enough that I immediately rewinded it just so I could watch it again. So I don't think it was like this first half was not like some of my favorite Re:Zero, but I still think it was really good because Re:Zero just is really good. I'm really excited to see how this arc will continue to progress. And on to our last one that I'll be talking about Shangri-La Frontier second season, which is the first about half. So I caught up with Shangri-La Frontier between summer and as of when I wrote this, and I became a big fan in the process. I already did an analysis about how I felt the series properly understands and portrays the gaming space really well. So please check that out if you want to get more of my in-depth thoughts. But here I can talk about stuff that didn't really fit into the topic of the analysis that I did. The fun characters and action of the series still holds true in this season, but the pacing definitely did become more of an issue, leaving me a bit burnt out on it. So again, as of writing this, I was a handful of episodes behind in season 2. I still very much like the series and stand by it as being one of the best series for adapting video games, but the series really needed to pick up the pace and get into the meaty stuff at that time, and thankfully it did after this. And to wrap things up with the last show that I mentioned in the summer roundup, but did not end up watching, I did not get around to continuing Loner Life in Another World. I just did not have enough time and energy to watch another show. Hopefully, I'll get back to it later, despite the very middling reception I've seen towards it, but I still want to give it a proper shot because I liked what I saw from the very early parts. If I do watch it and I have some stuff to say, then I will do a solo review on it. All right, so now to get into the stuff that I planned to watch in winter 2025 as of when I wrote this, and actually all of this is still accurate. I'm still watching all of these shows. So starting off, the only subsequent show that I'll be watching is Dr. Stone Science Future. I love Dr. Stone, so I will continue to watch it. I have a bunch of new things I'm interested in watching, but I don't know a whole lot about them. For a lot of seasons, I just go into the season listing and pick out stuff that sounds interesting, with additions from talking to friends, seeing public discourse, etc. If you don't know this about me already, my liking for wholesome shows and slice of life should be made very clear with my picks here. And maybe especially high as I've been watching more action or dramatically heavier shows as of late. So as usual, I want to state that I may not watch all of these. Well, I wrote that at the time, but again, like I said, I'm still watching all of these shows that I'm about to list. So first, Can You Keep a Secret, or Kono Kaisha ni Suki na Hito ga Imasu, is following the footsteps of 365 Days to the Wedding, with me hoping it will also satisfy my adult romance craving. A comfy reverse isekai sounds appealing to me, so I gave Welcome to Japan, Miss Elf, or Nihon e Yokoso, Elf-san, a try. I also heard of Honey Lemon Soda. I heard that the anime was going on, and I remember liking the first volume when I read it at the library a while ago, so I gave that one a shot too. And oh boy, here's a very long title. Okitsura fell in love with an Okinawan girl, but I just wish I know what she was saying. Or Okinawa de Suki ni Nata Koga Hogen Sugite Tsura Sugiru. I just thought this one sounded really cute. Sorry for my Japanese. My butchered Japanese. I'm still learning. I've enjoyed series that focus on the Japanese countryside life a lot, like Nanan Biori and Barakamon being two of my favorites. So I hoped that this one would give me a wholesome and interesting experience in that regard. I really like getting glimpses into the lives, locations, cultures, etc. of different people and areas that I don't know about. I just think that's interesting. And I appreciate what the countryside has to offer. I just also just simply think it's very interesting. So I find myself gravitated to these types of series. And also, I really don't mind when dedicated slice of life shows are especially slow paced, like see Nanon Biori. When people talk about shows where barely anything happens, that's what they're talking about. So stuff like that is not an issue. Hopefully, the gimmick around her dialect won't be too overdone. And going on to another one, there's Flower in Asura, or Hana wa Saku Shura no Gotoku. Also seems to overlap with the Japanese countryside vibe, but following the school club focus. I'm going to give this one a try as well. And ending off on the definitives, Sakamoto Days is very highly praised and seemed like something I could enjoy, so I thought I'd give it a watch. And moving on to some things that I'm not watching at the current time, but it's still relevant and coming out in this season, so I just thought I'd mention. So as of now, I'm not planning to watch it, but I did watch the first season of Toilet Bound Hanako-kun, or Jubaku Shonen Hanako-kun. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't one that especially stood out to me. So I might get around to it eventually if I hear really good things and have the time. And another one that I do really want to get to that I haven't watched yet is the Apothecary Diaries, or Kusaria no Hitorigoto. I really want to get to this one eventually when I have time. It's just busy. I'm an adult. I have to work, other responsibilities. Only have so much time. Last thing I can say for shows in winter 2025 is just, again, mentioning relevant stuff. I'm not watching Solo Leveling, as I really didn't enjoy it after the first few episodes. If you want to hear some more of my thoughts on Solo Leveling, you can see my winter 2024 roundup. And with that brings us to the end of fall 2024 and to the start of winter 2025. So thank you very much for watching this video. This did come out very late, but hopefully if you look forward to what I have to say with this season and subsequent seasons. Right now, you can see anything. I also forgot to move my slideshow, so I'll go through these. You can, while I talk for a little bit longer before I end. So on my website, I have write-ups of the vast majority of the videos I make are based on write-ups, articles, whatever you want to call them, that I post on my blog under a log. If you want to check that out, that is in the description. So again, I'm trying to catch up on videos. I'm not going to have a video go out for about 2 weeks or so because again, I'm really busy and have stuff going on. But I already have 3 first impressions of Okitsura, Flower and Asura, and I Have a Crush at Work. So if you want to hear my thoughts on those right now, you can go read those there. I also talked about Bocchi the Rock Season 2's announcement. And I will eventually make videos on those. It's just going to take more time. So thank you for your patience, and thank you very much for watching.